Well, for more from South Africa, Mike Law joins me now from Cape Town. He's a senior researcher at the Paternoster Group. Thanks so much for speaking to us, Mike. You know, the economy was already in trouble. I mean, even prior to the pandemic, the currency had already plummeted. Is a loosening of these restrictions absolutely necessary to try to ensure the economic damage isn't actually worse than the coronavirus itself?
Yes, thanks so much for having me on your show. Obviously, as you say, South Africa finds itself in a very difficult position. All countries around the world are experiencing an economic crisis and a health crisis, and South Africa has a triple crisis in some regards because, as you say, we were already experiencing our own economic crisis before the coronavirus pandemic. So right now we find ourselves in a difficult position. The government is trying to ease some of these restrictions very slowly, very incrementally. There's obviously a lot of pressure on the government to do that, given the economic state and the need for people to get basic services, food, and for the fiscus to try and collect some revenue to fund this massive problem.
Right. I mean, we've been seeing, food lines of up to 4 kilometers, people waiting just to eat because they can't get food for their families, for themselves. There's also another serious risk for people in South Africa. There's already a massive rate of HIV infection. So you're talking about millions of people with already severely compromised immune systems and a healthcare system that's stretched as it is. So when you talk about loosening the lockdown restrictions, you're also taking a tremendous risk if you do see more people infected.
100%, and this is the dilemma that governments are facing all over the world and have been facing for the last few months. And as you say, South Africa is in a very, very vulnerable position. We have a massive HIV, TB infected population, which makes us even more vulnerable, perhaps to the effects of the virus, without me straying too much out of my lane into the medical field. And our healthcare system, while in some areas, if you've got a bit of money, obviously you can get some world-class healthcare service, but we have the most unequal society in the world. So at the other end of the spectrum, you will have hospitals with just a few beds servicing an area of 100 kilometers or so wide. And so South Africa is clearly very, very worried about the health risk. And on the other hand, we have this economic disaster that we were talking about earlier. And finding the right balance has really been the big concern.
Let's talk a little further about the economy before I let you go. I mean, South Africa's economy had once been, a golden child of sorts. It wasn't just Africa's leading economy. It was a member of the BRICS club, with the benefits of the new development bank, for example. Does any of that membership, if I can put it that way, have any value today?
Yeah, sure. South Africa is still a member of BRICS and still a member of the New Development Bank. And that has meant that we are able to access some of the funding instruments available from that bank. And we have done already. I think China has also done the same, accessing finance from that bank. So obviously that's good because South Africa needs to fund this fiscal hole, so to speak. And that does require a range of foreign instruments. We've also sought access to some of the facilities at the IMF. So it still does have a benefit. And well, at least hopefully, I think the response of the government has largely been very positive. And it is a chance to restore some of the credibility that the country has lost in the last decade, where, as you say, we've been ravaged by corruption and maladministration.
Okay. Mike Law joining us there from Cape Town. Thanks so much for that.